What if math wasn't that complicated maze we all remember from school? Today, we're going to look at a modern approach that makes numbers way more intuitive and, you're not going to believe this, maybe even a little fun. Okay, let's dive right in.
For so many of us, this is exactly what math feels like, right? It's this tangled web of rules, and you feel like if you make just one wrong turn, you're completely lost. It's super intimidating. But what if there was a way to just, I don't know, straighten out the path?
So, first, let's talk about the problem. Let's talk about what I like to call the old math maze. Think back to school. Remember those super long calculations? All those rigid formulas? With so many steps, it was just way too easy for one tiny little mistake to throw the entire thing off. And that was more than just frustrating. Sometimes it really felt like it was designed to trip you up. Okay, but now for the good part, let's talk about the solution. A much simpler, totally new way to look at the exact same problems. Now, here's the thing. The goal isn't to get a different answer. It's to completely revolutionize how we get there. It's all about finding a more direct, a more elegant path through the numbers, one that's just easier to follow and, actually makes sense. So, you might be asking, how does this actually work? Well, let's break it down and look at two incredibly simple math tricks that are really the foundation of this whole new approach. Okay, our first tool is something called DR. Now, I know that little d might make you think of calculus, but hang on, don't let that word scare you. For what we're doing here, just think of dr as a little nudge, a tiny, tiny change you make to a number. And check out how simple this is in the real world. You start with the number 10, you want to change it just a little bit, so you give it that nudge of, say, 0.1, and what do you get? 10.1. That's it. No crazy formulas, no confusing steps. It's just a simple, small adjustment. All right, our second trick is called number concatenation. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, it sounds super technical, but trust me, it's about as simple as it gets. You are literally just sticking numbers together, side by side, to create a new one. It's like snapping together building blocks. And here's a perfect way to see the difference. With addition, 12 plus 34 equals 46. We all know that. But with concatenation, you just place them next to each other, and 12 and 34 become 1,234. See? It's an act of combining, not calculating. Okay, so we've got these simple little tricks, but so what? Why is making it simpler actually better? Let's get into the benefits. It really comes down to three huge advantages. First off, it's intuitive. Nudging a number or sticking two together, it just feels natural. Second, because it's way less complicated, there are just fewer chances to make a mistake. And finally, all of this makes math way more accessible to everybody, not just the folks who are already experts. And I love this metaphor because it just captures the whole feeling perfectly. Math stops being a chore with rigid rules and becomes something creative. You're not just following instructions. You're actually playing and building with numbers in a way that is genuinely engaging. So all this theory is great, but where do you actually see this stuff in real life? Let's look at a couple of practical examples. So here's a perfect use for our little nudge concept. Imagine a price on something goes up by a really small amount. You don't need to pull out a calculator for some complex percentage formula. You just add that tiny amount, that's your DR, to the original cost. It's simple, it's fast, and you get the answer you need. And concatenation? Oh man, it is the backbone of the digital world. Think about creating a unique code. Developers can just take a user's ID number and then stick a timestamp right next to it. And just like that, you have a totally unique key without needing some complex, confusing algorithm. So what's the big picture here? What's the major takeaway? Well, this is more than just a couple of neat math tricks. It's a whole new way of thinking. The future, it turns out, is simple. And this is the key. When we strip away all that unnecessary complexity, we free up our minds to be more creative. Making our tools simpler doesn't limit us at all. It actually empowers us to explore new ideas that used to be buried under layers and layers of confusing formulas. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. This whole mindset of finding the simpler, more intuitive path, that's not just for math, right? So what else in our world could be totally transformed if we just looked for a simpler way?